Ever been curious about how those really cool personalized t-shirts you see folks wearing are made, especially the ones with that super vibrant, almost hand-painted look?
It's a great question, and you're definitely not alone.
Oh,
Yeah, with so much custom gear out there now, it's, natural to wonder about the magic behind it.
well, get ready to find out because this deep dive is all about creating and selling custom HTV t-shirts. We're going to be looking at some information with a bit of a focus on the Quebec market today, but honestly, if you've ever thought about maybe starting a small customization business, what we uncover will be right up your alley.
Absolutely. We've been digging into some fascinating details about using HTV, that's heat transfer vinyl, to personalize all sorts of things, not just t-shirts. Think beyond just apparel, actually.
And for you tuning in, our goal today is to really get a handle on the key advantages and the potential that this market holds. We want to understand why HTV has become such a popular choice for people with like a creative spark and an entrepreneurial spirit. We're aiming to give you those quick but solid insights, maybe even a few of those aha moments, without getting bogged down in overly technical stuff.
Okay, so let's jump right in. What exactly is this HTV we keep talking about?
Right. Essentially, HTV is a special type of vinyl that's designed to be applied to fabrics and other materials using heat and pressure. Kind of like, imagine a really durable, high-quality iron-on design.
Okay.
What's particularly interesting is how accessible it makes customization. The information we've looked at really emphasizes the relatively low amount of money you need to get started.
Right.
And the potential to see a good return on that investment, which is definitely something to think about if you're considering a new venture.
Yeah, that makes sense.
To give you a concrete idea, like imagine you invest in a basic setup for maybe a few $100s. You could potentially create and sell t-shirts with a significant profit margin on each one, especially if you're smart about your sourcing and pricing. That low barrier to entry is huge. And it's interesting how the local market can really play a role. We saw that in Quebec. There's been a noticeable increase in support for local businesses following some trade announcements.
That's right.
So if you're in that part of the world and can tap into that desire for locally made goods with some cool Quebec-inspired designs or slogans, it sounds like a really promising environment
Definitely.
for creating personalized t-shirts quickly and affordably. It's not like you need a massive factory or a huge team to get going, right? We're talking about something you could potentially run from, like a home studio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that leads us right into why HTV stands out. One of the big things is the flexibility and the long-term viability of your equipment.
Okay.
The information we reviewed mentioned that there is essentially no depreciation on your cutting machine and heat press in the traditional sense. These aren't items that suddenly become unusable or lose their core function quickly.
I see.
Unlike maybe some software that needs constant updates, While the technology might see gradual improvements over time, your initial investment remains largely sound and capable.
Right. It's not like they're going to stop working or become completely outdated in a year or two.
Yeah.
That's good to know. And the fact that you can just stop and start production whenever you need to,
Yeah.
whether it's for a short break or even a longer period, that seems like a massive advantage compared to something like screen printing, where you've got screens that can dry out and require more immediate attention.
Oh, absolutely. That offers a lot more flexibility for smaller operations.
Oh, sure.
And building on that flexibility is the no cost per unit aspect beyond the vinyl itself and, bit of electricity.
Okay.
If we compare that to direct to garment or DTG printing, which is a process where ink is essentially printed directly onto the fabric, you have ongoing expenses for ink cartridges and other consumables. With HTV, once you have your vinyl, your costs for each item produced are very predictable. Makes budgeting much easier.
Yeah, I can see that.
Plus, the vinyl itself has a pretty good shelf life, so you can stock up without a huge worry of it expiring quickly.
So it sounds like once you've made that initial investment in equipment and maybe some vinyl, you're in a good position to fulfill orders without those recurring costs constantly eating into your profits. Okay. Now, shifting gears a bit, what about the actual demand for personalized items? Is that just like a passing fad?
Not at all, actually. The information we looked at really highlights the consistent and, growing demand for personalized clothing, t-shirts, hoodies, caps, you name it. People increasingly value having items that reflect their individuality, whether it's for their own personal style, a small business looking to build its brand, or maybe a special event creating memorable merchandise.
Yeah, that's true.
Think about it. Personalized gifts and apparel have become really popular.
That's definitely true. It's not just individuals either, right? The information we reviewed points out that small businesses, people selling on platforms like Etsy,
Yeah, Etsy sellers.
and marketplace vendors all utilize HTV to create and sell their own unique designs.
Hmm.
Then you have schools, sports teams, various events that regularly need custom logos and names applied to apparel.
Yeah.
Seems like there's a really wide range of potential customers out there.
Exactly. A huge market. And the technology and the types of HTV available are constantly evolving, which opens up even more exciting possibilities for designs and applications.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about some of these cool new options. What's out there that's making things more interesting?
Well, what's fascinating is the sheer variety now available. We're talking about glitter HTV to add some sparkle.
Oh, nice.
A holographic that changes its look depending on the light, glow in the dark for a fun novelty effect, and metallic finishes to give designs a really premium feel.
Wow.
These new types of vinyl really allow for some eye-catching and unique designs that can capture people's attention. Imagine a local sports team with jerseys featuring a shimmering metallic logo. It definitely makes a statement.
Ooh, I can absolutely see those being really popular, especially for specific niches or like events.
Definitely. And for the sportswear market, there have been significant advancements in stretchable HTV.
Ah,
It's now much more durable and can be applied to stretchy fabrics like spandex without cracking or peeling when the garment is worn and moved in. That's a huge improvement for athletic wear.
yeah, that was always a problem, wasn't it?
Exactly. Plus, there's an economic and even an ecological advantage to purchasing vinyl by the yard. It allows smaller businesses to be more flexible with their inventory and reduce potential waste by only buying what they need.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not stuck with large quantities of a color or style that might not be as popular. And speaking of getting started, it sounds like you don't need a massive, expensive industrial setup to begin working with HTV, right? What kind of equipment are we talking about?
That's right. The rise of accessible desktop cutting machines, those 12-inch models you can easily fit on a desk,
Yeah.
has really made HTV a viable option for a lot of people looking to start a home-based business, or even just a small side project. If we connect this to the bigger picture, think about how quickly trends can emerge on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest.
Oh, totally.
With HTV and a desktop cutter, you can react to those trends really fast by creating personalized apparel and bags that tap into what's popular. It's a way to be nimble and responsive to the market.
It's almost like a low-cost physical version of print on demand. You see a trend, you can design something related, cut it out of vinyl, and press it onto a shirt relatively quickly with a pretty minimal upfront investment.
Exactly. And while direct-to-garment printing and sublimation, which uses heat to transfer dye onto materials, typically polyester or polymer-coated items are becoming more popular.
Right, you hear about those a lot too.
HTV still holds some key advantages, particularly for smaller-scale operations.
Okay, let's dive into that a bit more. When does HTV really shine compared to DTG and sublimation?
Yeah.
What are its specific strengths?
Well, one of the main advantages is its suitability for small production runs. With HTV, you don't have minimum order quantities, which is fantastic if someone just wants, say, a single, unique, personalized t-shirt, or maybe a small batch for a special occasion.
Okay, that's big. No minimums.
Yeah. Another significant benefit is its effectiveness on dark-colored fabrics. Sublimation, for example, really only works well on light-colored polyester materials because the dye needs a light base to show up vibrantly.
Ah, right.
HTV, on the other hand, is opaque and shows up really well on almost any color of fabric. Cotton, blends, dark colors, no problem.
Gotcha.
And finally, as we touched on earlier, HTV allows for those special finishes, the metallic, glittery, even raised or puffed textures that DTG and sublimation can't easily replicate.
So if you're dealing with smaller quantities, want to work with dark garments, or want to offer those really eye-catching special effects, HTV sounds like the go-to choice.
Often it really is. And it's interesting to note that its applications aren't just limited to clothing anymore. The information we looked at also touched on the durability of HTV and how it's being used in some unexpected niche markets.
Oh, yeah, I was curious about that. Where else are we seeing HTV pop up? Besides shirts and hoodies.
Well, first off, some manufacturers are now offering more environmentally friendly HTV options, like those that are PVC-free and even biodegradable,
That's good.
which appeals to a growing segment of eco-conscious consumers. But beyond apparel, the trends we see on platforms like TikTok and Instagram are really driving the use of HTV on things like mugs, shoes, phone cases, even home decor items.
Really? Shoes?
Yeah. Think about personalizing a plain mug with a vinyl decal or adding a unique touch to a pair of sneakers. It really opens up a whole new world of personalized products you can create.
That's really fascinating. It's definitely moved beyond just slapping design on a t-shirt. The potential seems much broader than I initially imagined. Okay, now let's talk about the business side of things. For someone looking to really make a profit with HTV, what are some key strategies?
A big part of maximizing profits comes down to smart material sourcing. The information we looked at specifically mentioned SignMAX and the advantages of buying HTV vinyl in larger quantities.
Okay, buying in bulk.
Exactly. Whether you're a small artisan just starting out or a growing business, purchasing in bulk can significantly reduce your cost per yard of vinyl.
Yeah.
For instance, instead of buying a few individual sheets for a project, investing in a 10-yard or even a 50-yard roll of a popular color
Right.
can lead to substantial savings over time.
So instead of just buying a yard here and there as you need it, committing to those larger rolls can really cut down on your expenses. Makes sense.
Absolutely. The information emphasizes that a higher volume of vinyl purchase generally translates directly to increased profit margins for those creating custom t-shirts, caps, bags, you name it. It's a pretty straightforward principle. The less you pay for your materials, the more profit you can make on each item you sell. Why pay a higher retail price when buying in bulk can dramatically lower your expenses and ultimately boost your earnings?
That sounds like a pretty fundamental way to improve your bottom line. Simple but effective. Okay, so just to summarize everything we've covered in this deep dive, kind of wrap it up.
Yeah, to bring it all together, HTV really presents a compelling and relatively accessible entry point into the world of personalized goods. The lower initial investment needed compared to some other customization methods.
Right, accessibility.
Combined with the flexibility it offers and the consistent demand we see for personalized items, creates a significant opportunity for creative individuals with an entrepreneurial mindset, particularly, as we mentioned, in regions that actively support local businesses.
Like Quebec, yeah.
And with the ongoing advancements in HTV materials, the glitters, the stretchables, all the possibilities for unique and appealing designs just keep expanding. It makes it a dynamic and exciting area to be involved in.
Definitely sounds like it. And hopefully, for you listening, this deep dive has given you a clear and concise understanding of the HTV market and the potential it holds for anyone looking to create and sell personalized goods.
Yeah, and this raises a really interesting point for you to consider. Given the sheer versatility and accessibility of HTV, what unique, locally inspired designs do you think would really resonate with people in your community? And maybe even push it further, what other perhaps unexpected items could you see being personalized using this technique?
Ooh, good question.
It's about thinking creatively beyond the obvious, beyond just the t-shirt, you know?